Are you ready?
Yeah. Hello, good evening and welcome to the Henley College and welcome to our virtual information evening. And this evening we're going to be looking at several subjects. Let me just flip over to the next slide. We're going to be looking from 6 till 6:30 at Earth Science, and that will look at environmental science, geography and geology with Marco and myself. And from 6:30 till 7, we're going to be looking at the academic sports programs at the Henley College. So we will be looking at level 2 and level 3 sport and PE A level. Then 7 o'clock till 7:30, we will be looking at the enrichment and elite sports at Henley College. These are the actual participatory sports. And then finally, there'll be a short explanation of public services, or now called protective services, by Roger. So I think we'll kick off with Earth Sciences, and we're going over to Marco.
Hi everyone. So my name is Marco. I'm one of the teachers in the Earth Science department. So I teach environmental science. I've been teaching here in Henley College for about 4 years now. This is a very, very interesting subject. The majority of the students take this subject because they take a massive interest on topics that are current and hot on media at the moment. Talking about global climate change, the loss of biodiversity worldwide. We talk about ozone depletion, pollution. They very on target with pollution at the moment. They are investing massively on renewable energy. So everything that we cover in this subject is pretty much about topics that we are now experiencing at the moment in colour and life. So I've prepared this slide where you can get all the information about the subject. Just to give you a brief idea, I think the students like the beginning of the subject quite a lot because they talk about biodiversity. They get to know the reasons why biodiversity is under threat and how humans are interacting with the biodiversity for both the benefits and the harmful impacts associated with it. And then we finish off always with ecology, which is about preserving and conserving the biodiversity for the future. Now, once we finish that, we then go on to the physical environment, and in the physical environment, we cover things like atmospheric pollution, global climate change, ozone depletion. We do a lot of selected habitats together with that. So we cover Antarctica, tropical rainforests, and then what will be the impact of those habitats in the overall atmospheric pollution levels, especially on global climate change. And then we cover water, lithosphere. We talk about the mineral resources. How do we get them? Why are they so valuable to us? What are the potential impacts of mining and getting those resources? And also, again, what will be the solution for the future? So I would say the first year, pretty much those first two topics, and the first year is about building the basics for what we do next. And in the next year, so in the second year, the students look into human activities. So what sort of human activities are we doing at the moment that will cause a bigger harm to the future of our planet and the resources we are using currently? So it's all about sustainability. We cover things like agriculture, fisheries, forestry, aquaculture, and then we finish off with a big topic, which is the sustainability topic. It's a topic that we're going to cover pretty much throughout the 2 years. As you can see on that slide, there's a last topic which is called research methods. So this is what students get to do in a practical manner in terms of environmental science. So we do 4 days of mandatory field work. So there's a couple of places that we normally go on a yearly basis. So we normally tend to do 2 full days in the first year and 2 full days in the second year. We go to places like Botanical Garden from Oxford University. We do visit the Harcourt Arboretum, which is another local visit. In the second year, we visit Rushall Farming so the student can have first-hand experience on looking at how organic farming is done, what were the benefits of organic farming in comparison with commercial farming. So they do a lot of stuff which is done on a practical manner, but their exams will be in writing. However, those practical activities are quite good because the students get to have a hands-on experience, and they will be much better prepared to kind of analyze and evaluate these experiments in theoretical questions. So it's about giving them the full package so they are better prepared for the exams. The results have been quite good for the past 4 years. The results you have in that slide are from the last year. So we had 13 students completing environmental science with 100% success rate, and 90% of the students got an A star to C. So these have been the results. They have been pretty steady in the past years with 100% rate. And then obviously the A to C grade changed slightly, but they have been consistently about 70%. One of the questions that we normally get a lot in environmental science is what my daughter and my son can do with environmental science. There's loads of options. Environmental science is kind of an umbrella subject at the moment, and most of the companies need some sort of people or person working in something related to the environmental science because of sustainability or health and security checks. So you have a couple of professions there, career prospects that people can take with environmental science. They're not the only ones. They are the ones specific for environmental science. But we've had all sorts of students doing traffic management at university. We've had students who have gone and to nursing degree with environmental science. I've had 2 students last year who went down to do biology, even though they've never done biology at level. So there is a wide range of subjects that you can actually take with environmental science. So what I would suggest is if there is anything that you really want to ask about environmental science, we will have a Q&A session open from now on. So any questions that you have about this subject, just ask me and I'll be on the background answering. So do you think there's anything missing in terms of environmental science that I should mention?
I don't know. We have a student that's the Environment Agency now.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's the most direct. We've had quite a few students who've gone on and done degrees in environmental science. There are some really good courses available. And if you think about all the building work that's going on at the moment, and even looking at things like HS2,
yeah,
they need environmentalists to go and assess before they start digging. I know they'll have archaeologists as well looking at groundwork, but there are so many jobs. Before you build in any way, you have to, if you've got trees nearby, you have to have someone assess the trees. So there are all sorts of related jobs that, you know, a huge range of different sorts of jobs that relate to them.
Yeah. So that's it. So should we move to geography?
Yes, please.
And it'll be
me.
you.
Yeah. I'm going to lean this round towards me. Hi there. So I'm Sandra Wickens, and I'm the curriculum leader. And the geography that we do is with AQA A-level. And we have, I think, 40 students in the first year and 40 students in the second year. So that's 2 classes with 20 in each class. So you get 2 2-hour lessons of all of the subjects at A-level. So 2 2-hour lessons of geography in the week. And with your A-level timetable, all students are free on a Wednesday, which means they have the opportunity to join in with sport enrichment and so on. And the matches are always on a Wednesday. I just mentioned that generally. And please do, if you've got any Q&A, type them in for us and we'll be checking back on those to see what's being asked. So in year 1, we start with physical geography and we start with coasts. And the reason for doing that is that you'll see on the slide that you have to do a piece of coursework, a non-examined unit. And coasts lends itself to so many opportunities to learn skills for fieldwork. So counting things, measuring things, looking at management of the coast, looking at landscapes and features and change over time. So all of those things are really good to do early on in the year. So we get ourselves down to the coast, so usually to Christchurch, the bay there, and we go to Barton-on-Sea and Hurst Castle Spit, so that we can do fieldwork. And you can see on there's the slide of us in the sunshine with long shadows. I think that was probably October when we went down. But before the weather gets too bad, we get off and get and do some field work. So that's the first thing. And then the next thing we do is called changing places. And again, this lends itself to a lot of fieldwork opportunities. So our current first years have been out last week, the week before, and they'll be going out next week. And they're doing fieldwork just locally in Henley. So one of the things that they've done in pairs is to go around Henley and assess whether the shops are clone shops, that is chain stores like Boots or Costa, and which shops are independent shops. So we're looking to see, has Henley become just the same as all the other towns locally? And there is a formula that goes with what they're doing, and they add it all up, and then we look at what route they took and did that make a difference to the survey. And all of this can be then used as part of their individual study. Then thirdly, and that's usually just after Christmas, we move on and look at urbanisation, and then we have our next long trip fieldwork. We'll be going to central London. So we're going to go to Spitalfields and Brick Lane. And for those of you who know it, it's a very vibrant area, masses of photo opportunities with amazing graffiti. But for Marco and I think it's fair to say there's an opportunity to go to the bagel store, which is the best one in London, because back at the turn of last century, so 1901, it was an area that was entirely, or not entirely, 90% Jewish area. And before that, it had been an area where migrants from across Europe, mainly France, the Huguenots, came to England. They were being persecuted in their own country because they were Protestants, and they came here. And then the Jews came over as they were being exploited and so on, first of all in Russia and then later in Germany, which you will all know about. And so we had a sequence of different migrant groups coming through and adding to the whole flavour of that area, quite literally the flavour of the area where the bagels are concerned. But now it's a largely Bangladeshi area, and so we also do quite favour the curries that we can have for lunch when we go there. So it's an area of massive change. We call it population churn. Every 5 years, more than half of the population in that area changes. It's awesome to go and visit and see what's going on, and it changes each year that we go. Also in that area are some very, very posh houses that have been gentrified. And we look at how can this house, which costs 3 million, be just a street away from somewhere where there are all sorts of problems with homeless people, drug taking, multiple deprivation, poverty, unemployment, low education levels, right next door. So it's brilliant that we can go and see how close those two groups of people are in the middle of London. And again, we pick up lots of fieldwork skills. And then the last one for that term is water and carbon cycles. And then into term 2, into year 2, the students then spend their summer collecting the data for their projects, which we've agreed, lent them the equipment for and got set up. And then they'll be writing it up in that first term, right up till Christmas. And during that term, we do possibly everyone's favourite. We do hazards, we do earthquakes, volcanoes, storms. I'm about to do fires, which you won't have done at GCSE, so it's a very, very interesting one. We're going to be focusing on California, but it could be Australia, and looking at how that links into previous term when we've looked at global warming and how things are changing over the whole planet. So looking locally, regionally, globally. And then the final area of the syllabus is globalization. And the globalization element brings everything together because geography is such an umbrella subject, and it looks at international issues, it looks at Antarctica, and so on. So that's really, really very interesting and a nice subject to end on, but not one that you could have done fieldwork on. And we couldn't have done fieldwork on the hazard zones. That would be too dangerous, so we don't do that. So the logic of how we've set it out is that. People ask what were our results. Well, you can see those. That's last year's results on there. 100% pass rate, 50% high grades. That's A star to B. That's not A star to C. We have some photos of students doing local fieldwork there, and as I said, down at Christchurch. People also ask, what does geography go with? And it's such a good subject for that, because you can do maths with it and biology and it becomes a science subject, or you could do English and ancient history with it and it becomes an art subject. It sits a bit on the fence, if I'm honest, in that way. But a lot of people who just love geography will do it with PE. We have a few students doing PE and rugby on our course. We've got people doing sociology and art. We could have physics and math, film studies, English, RE, photography. It goes with a huge range of subjects, and it's what they call a facilitating subject on the curriculum. Something else you think I've missed out on?
It's probably good to mention that every time that we have natural disaster,
Yeah.
we always try to bring that to the classroom.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we
Yeah.
had recently the Turkey earthquake, and you covered that with second years.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So we always take the opportunity to look at the most recent natural disaster and bring that to the classroom, so the students can have something more up to date.
Yeah, definitely.
Curriculum, which is good. The other thing is probably the international weather, but we'll wait until the end.
Okay, we'll let you talk about geology next. Okay, and then we'll talk about the international next. Thanks very much, Marco. So back over to Marco.
Hi, I'm here again. So I'm also teaching geology. So geology has been a subject that we have run for the in the past couple of years, but it's highly dependent on numbers. Geology is a very, very interesting science that the majority of the people normally are afraid to take it because they've never done it before. So what I would say for those who have never done geology before, if they like physical geography, and if they want to do something in the field of physical geography together with geography or any other science, because geology fits very well with any other science like biology or chemistry or physics, I would entice them to try geology, because I'm pretty sure they will love it. So the last group I had about 7 to 8 students, and none of them have chosen geology as their first option. So it was their third or fourth option in their A-level program, and all of them ended up doing geology in their university degree. So I think it could be one of those surprise subjects that even though you have never tried it, you're going to find it something brand new, exciting, and you might find the passion of your life in there. As you can imagine, I am very passionate about the subject. I am a geologist myself. I have a geology degree, and I do bring as much as possible my professional experience in geology to the subject. And I think that's part of the reason why the student engage so much with geology, because they will be able to see firsthand how do you apply geology in the real world. Now, what is geology about? Geology is pretty much the science that studies our planet, and we're literally talking about everything associated with our planet. We're talking about the organisms that we have in our planet. We have the formation of continents and oceans. We're talking about all the dynamics associated with hazards that, for example, you do in geography. We're talking about how the atmosphere and the continents and the water in the oceans all link together. But if you look at the slide, you can see more or less what the spec we're doing. So just to kind of easy up the minds of the ones you're afraid of taking geology as a new thing, the first topic we do is foundation in geology. So even if you have never done geology before, the first few months are pretty much about building foundation in geology. So we're going to look at basics of geology. So we're going to look at minerals and rocks, how the rocks are formed, how the minerals are formed, how do we look at different types of rocks and their formation. And then we're looking also at fossils and how fossils can be used to give us a notion of time and how the planet was formed. Students normally like the fossils about dinosaurs, but they end up discovering fossils of so many other organisms that we have in collection in our college, in our laboratorial collection. They find out there's so many other amazing organisms before the dinosaurs that tell us so much about our planet. So after we do the foundation, so it normally takes about 2 months, then we move into the geology content. So we start by looking at tectonics, and for the ones who like hazards, that kind of crosses over with what we do in geography, but in a different notion, in a different kind of perspective. So while in geography you might look at the economical, social benefits, and also problems associated, impacts associated with earthquakes and volcanoes. In geology, we're looking at what triggers those sorts of hazards, what is the process that are happening in our planet that are responsible for those sorts of tectonic processes. So this, for the students who do like geography, and they are very decisive about geography or physical science, something that I want to do in university degree, it's a good combination to have with geography. So geology, geography do combine very well with one another. Moving on to what we do as well. So we're looking at interpreting the past and petrology. So petrology is about looking at the rocks in a geology perspective. So looking at classifying the rocks in igneous, metamorphic, sedimentary, look at how the different rocks are formed in our planet, what are the processes responsible for that. And then we're going to look at the rocks in the eyes of interpreting what they might tell us about the story of our planet. They might tell us that there was a volcanic eruption at a certain time that was very important. So for example, in the UK, we have several rocks that are from volcanic origin. But although we now look at the UK and we say UK is volcanically inactive, UK did had a lot of volcanoes back in the days, and they are just preserved in the rocks. The only way we know that is because we have rocks that are volcanic rocks that are underground. And if we didn't know how to study those rocks, we would never find out. So, for example, in Cornwall, people tend to be a bit more radioactive because they live underneath granite rocks, which emit this radioactive gas that is called the radon. So we know this because of geology as well. So geology does give you the opportunity to take a lot of careers. So similar to environmental science, you could do environmental engineering with geology, but you can do much more with geology. You could go for geotechnical engineering, like Sandra was mentioning earlier. Any construction, any infrastructure that needs to be built needs to have a report made by a geologist saying that the foundation, the rock underneath that foundation is strong enough to support the infrastructure they want to build. So pretty much any engineering work will require a geologist. A lot of students do geology degree either to work on mining or oil and gas industry, which is one of the topics we also cover, which are the last two that you can see in the slide. But there's also other opportunities, like people who like to work for the energy sector, the government. So there is, for example, the Department of Nuclear Energy. A lot of the people who get employed in the Department of Nuclear Energy have a geology degree. And there's always, obviously, the geoscience research, which are people who want to do an academic career. In terms of results, the results have been very good in geology. So we've had a 78% of A to B as well, so not A to C. And we've had a pass rate of 8 out of 9 from the last cohort of students we had for geology. In terms of assessment, there will be 3 papers. The 3 papers are all in writing, but there will be a practical endorsement. So that means they will also have 4 days of mandatory field work, similarly to environmental science and geography. So students do sometimes these 3 earth science subjects, and they end up doing 8 or 12 days of field work different for each subject. But that means during the 2 years, they will be very busy with field work. So if it's something that you're really keen on doing, then these 3 subjects are probably something that you'd be looking into. So think seriously about doing 1 or 2 or even the 3 of them if you really like being outside, getting practical skills sharpen up, and associating the theory you do with what you do in the field as well. I think those are the biggest selling points of these 3 subjects.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's. I kind of think that people who like geology are the people who are the physical geographers.
Yes.
In a way. So if you're not so keen on the population and things like that, but you love rivers, coasts, volcanoes, then geology is a really good one to go for.
And there's also, we normally have about I would say about a quarter of the geology students who do physics as well, or chemistry. And the reason why is because geology and physics, they do combine a lot together. There's a science university called geophysics, and the same thing with geochemistry. So there will be places in our geography pack where we'll be covering chemistry and physics, obviously not in the same detail as those science, but we will be applying that in a practical manner.
Sort of complementary.
Yes,
really.
I think so. I think the students are actually glad when they do this combination of subjects. They find out, oh, I've done this in physics, and now I'm applying this to geology, or vice versa. And the same thing with geography. And they're actually glad because while they are revising for one subject, they're kind of revising the other one as well, which is good.
Do you want to get on to the field trips?
Yeah, I think we can show that as well. Yeah. So, you want to talk?
Well,
should I?
Let's go. So I'll talk about the top is the Atlas Mountains in Imlil, in the foothills of the Atlas Mountains. So we have been to Morocco, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 times, and we do field work in the city, in Marrakesh, and we look at shanty towns, and we look at the ancient city, and also we look at employment and so on, and then we go up into the mountains and have a really great time lying on the roof of the hotel watching the shooting stars. Ooh. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. Brilliant. The next one is the one that Marco wants to do, so I'll let you talk about that.
Okay, so the next one, I haven't been there, so that's why I want to go there. So Sandra have been there, how many times? Once?
Only once.
Only once.
Yeah.
So how long was this?
It was a short trip. I think it was only 5 days.
Okay, and it was what, 4 years ago you signed up?
So this is.
So that was just before I joined.
Yes,
college.
of course. Iceland, which you haven't said.
So it's Iceland. What you see in there is a picture of the Blue Lagoon, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So it was a 4 or 5 day trip that Sandra did in Iceland about 4.5 years ago. I'm assuming that the students loved it, because out of these 3, it would be my favorite one.
It was excellent, and to know that they do thermally heat the streets, so that there's no snow on the road. It's obvious, but you don't know that it's going to happen.
And I've just heard about, a student told me yesterday that in Iceland they project these crowds onto buildings. Did you know about this?
No, I don't know.
And they say it's something that tourists go to Iceland.
We saw the Northern Lights. That's
all
enough. I'm going to say. Okay. So very quickly, because we've got to switch over.
Okay, yeah. So the last picture you have in here. So we've done this trip. So obviously not last year because our plans were disrupted because of the COVID. But 2 years ago we went to Bay of Naples and Sicily. So basically it was a 5-day trip, and we did 4 volcanoes in 5 days, including Mount Etna and Vesuvius. So we did walk up there, and the picture you see in there is snow in Mount Etna. So it was boiling hot on that day.
Yeah.
But up in the mountain was snow. I don't think that picture shows you the greatness of how good that was.
No, and the smoke was coming out of the volcano, and so there we were.
Really good.
But it was really, really awesome.
So we normally do this every year.
Yeah.
We try to change the not do the same one in a row. So the first year, if they want to go in the second year, can go in the second year. So that's pretty much it. If you want to know more, there's a question answer. So feel free to ask any questions. Sandra and I will be on the background, probably me, because Sandra will be talking more in the future. Maybe. So very nice to meet you, and thank you so much for attending.
And apply now. Yes, what we'd say for us.
Yes.
So we on that. If there's any questions, could you please load those up, type them up for us, and we're going to just switch presenter now. And it'll take us a second. And we're going to go over to A-level sport first, or A-level PE more accurately. And we're going to go to Tom. And he's just going to appear in a second.
Great, thanks Sandra.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name's Tom and I teach on the AQA A-level physical education. Before we go into that, we'll be covering all the sport courses that we teach at the college. So that's AQA A-level PE, Btec level 3 sport and exercise science, Btec level 3 sport, fitness and personal training, and the Cambridge technical level 2 sport and physical activity. So myself and my colleagues Becky and Danny will be going through these with you this evening, and we're going to start off with AQA A-level physical education. Next slide, please. Okay, so as mentioned, we'll be going through 4 courses tonight, shown there on the screen, and the first is A-level physical education. So how is A-level PE assessed? So it is 70% exam, so 2 papers, 35% weighting on each, and a 30% non-examined assessment or coursework. Coursework will need to include video evidence of one approved sport in a fully competitive situation, and a written analysis and evaluation. Next slide, please. So what is the theory content? In year 1, we cover applied anatomy and physiology, skill acquisition, and sport in society. In year 2, we cover exercise physiology, biomechanics, sport psychology, and the other half of sport and society, and the role of technology in sports. Next slide, please. So is there much practical? This is a question we get a lot, and unfortunately, there isn't. The majority of the course is theory based, although there is always application to practical where possible. So as teachers, myself, Becky and Danny, if we can, at any opportunity, we will try and change the environment of the classroom into a practical environment. So the majority of practical video evidence that you need for your coursework that I spoke briefly about in a previous slide need to be produced in your own time, so outside of the classroom. So it's really useful to have access to a recording device and tripod. However, if you are a member of our sports programs, whether that be netball, rugby, football, we film games, so you can use this footage if needs be. Next slide, please. So what other A-level subjects work well alongside physical education? Well, there is a crossover of content between biology, psychology, and sociology. We're not saying you have to take these alongside PE, but there is a crossover of content. So essentially, PE could help you in biology and vice versa. How many sports do I need to do for the practical? So 1 sport, and it must be on the approved list. The approved list is very lengthy, and it covers all the main sports such as rugby, football, and netball, and also some niche sports as well that you wouldn't think are on there. You don't have to be performing at an elite level in order to study A-level PE, as long as you can get video evidence of yourself performing for your coursework. Next slide, please. So just going to go through some frequently asked questions. Doesn't matter if I haven't studied GCSE PE, so if you're currently not studying GCSE PE in your secondary school, it's not essential, but it is desirable. It's a very science-based course. Do I need a textbook? Yes, definitely, and I'll show you on the next slide a picture of that. Can I join the sports development or elite sports program alongside this subject? Yes, absolutely. We make the timetable work to accommodate this, and as I mentioned earlier, it really fits in well with trying to get video footage for your coursework. How many lessons will I have per week? So you'll have 4 one-hour lessons per week, and this is divided up equally between myself, Becky, and Danny, and then you're expected to complete an additional 4 hours study, whether that is in the form of homework, revision, or just consolidating your notes from your lesson. Next slide, please. So this is what the textbook looks like that you need to purchase. It is your Bible for A-level PE for the 2 years. And next slide. And we go on one trip to Body Worlds London, which fits in really well with the anatomy and exercise physiology topics that fall under A-level PE. Students get a lot out of this trip, and it's a really enjoyable experience for them. So I'm going to move you on now to the Btec Level 3 in Sport and Exercise Science. If you do have any questions, stick them in the chat, and I'll pass you over to Danny, who's going to talk you through that course.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Danny. I've been teaching at the college for a number of years now in physical education, A-level PE, and sport and exercise science. And I'm going to talk you through the Level 3 Sport and Exercise Science, which is a bit different to the Btec Level 3 Sport, which Becky will explain further a bit later on. So on the Sport and Exercise Science, it's a vocational course, mostly examined through assignments, but I'll explain that a bit later on. So you'll take 13 units or subjects that are related to sport and exercise science. In the first year, you'll do 6 units, which you can see there in the left-hand column. So this is what our current first year is doing at the moment. And where it says EA in brackets, that means that those particular units or topics are examined through an exam, externally assessed. So you'll have to sit an exam like our first years are about to in January. The other units are assessed through assignments, which we mark, us, your lecturers will mark. And so those are internally assessed. In your year 2, you will take 7 further units. Again, 2 of these will be externally assessed or examined, and the other 5 will be marked by ourselves. You'll have to produce assignments for those. Those units give you a good idea of what you can go into if you decide that you're going to go into sport and exercise science or do a degree in it. Those are the areas that you could specialize in and that there are careers available in. But I'll come on to that in a little bit. Next slide, please. So the unit 2 units, the year 2 units, I beg your pardon, which you saw on the right hand column, they're a natural progression from what you study in year 1. So for example, you'll look at anatomy in year 1, the structure of body systems like the skeletal system, cardiorespiratory system, the cardiovascular system. And then in your second year, you'll study physiology, things like heart rates, breathing rates, stroke volume, tidal volume, etc. All about how each of those systems actually works. Similarly, in the first year, you will do research methods. And in the second year, having learned that all about research, you will then do a research project on a subject of your choice, as long as it's related to sport or exercise science. Okay, could I have the next slide, please? So as I've explained, most of your units will be assessed by us, your lecturers. You'll produce 3 to 4 assignments in each of those topics, and we, your lecturers, will mark those. And for each assignment, you can get pass, merit, and distinction criteria. So you have to achieve all of those criteria if you want to record a distinction overall in that particular unit. If you don't get the criteria that you're after in your first attempt at the assignment, then you get one further opportunity. So you'll get feedback on your assignment. You'll get a further 2 weeks to improve it, and this is what we call a resubmission. At the end of the course, your final grade is determined by the number of passes, merits, or distinctions that you achieve across those 13 units. And basically, you then get points. It's a point system for how many distinctions or merits or passes you've got. And that's how universities decide whether you are suitable or capable of doing a particular degree at their university. Okay, could I have a look at the next slide, please? Yeah, so on the left is what our current first years are using. This is our recommended textbook, your Bible, as Tom put it, for our sport and exercise science course. And you might also like to purchase the revision guide, which specifically would help you with those topics that are examined, where you have to sit an exam. I'd just like to talk a little bit about the careers that some of our students go on to. So on our current sport and exercise science course, around 45 to 50% of our students will carry on to higher education. They'll go off to university, and they might do degrees in sport and exercise science. They might do other sport-related degrees like sport and business, sports management. We've got students that have gone off and studied sports journalism. We get some of our Btec sport and exercise science students who get the top grades will go off and do chartered physiotherapy. So there's definitely a route into physiotherapy for those of you that are interested, but you will need to achieve the top grades in order to do that. We have other students that go on to do sports therapy at university. So that gives you an idea of the type of degree that you might go on to do in higher education. As I said previously, those different units give you a good idea of the specialisms within sport and exercise science. So you can specialize in sports psychology, physiology, biomechanics. There's more and more jobs coming up now in sport for analysis. And also strength and conditioning is a popular degree course now for some of our students. So the other half of our students might go straight into the workplace. So careers that they might go into, well, some will go into the leisure industry and work in leisure centres. Quite a few will go into personal training, although the Btec level 3 sport, which Becky will explain later, is probably a better route. You think, yeah, it's personal training that I want to go into, then that course is probably the better bet for you. Some of our students will join the armed forces. One of our fairly recent students is working in the RAF as a PT instructor. One of our students last year has gone into the police force, and we get quite a lot of students that go into coaching. They enjoy coaching, and they might start on the sort of almost like the first rung of the coaching ladder, doing community coaching or working in clubs. So hopefully that's given you a good overall view of our sport and exercise science degree course. And if you've got any questions, then tap those in, and one of us will get back to you as soon as we can. Okay, am I handing over to Becky now, Sandra?
Great, thanks, Danny. So I'm going to talk to you about the Btec Sports Fitness and Personal Training qualification. This is a level 3 qualification, similar to the one that Danny just spoke to you about, but it's a new offer for us at Henley College. And as Danny explained, it's probably more suited for those of you looking to go into the industry, into the fitness industry or personal training, rather than the sports science course. But both are quite similar in that they will both get you to university, and you can go into the workplace at the end of your 2 years as well. I'm going to have the next slide, please. So as I just mentioned, this is a new level 3 course for us at Henley College. Similar to what the course that was previously mentioned, this is also a 2-year course, but it is really designed to allow you to progress to employment as either a personal trainer or as a fitness instructor. As I mentioned a moment ago, it can also be used to enter higher education, so it does attract UCAS tariff points. As it's quite a recent qualification, it's also been developed in consultation with employers and industry professionals such as SIMSPA. And the key difference between this Btec level 3 and the Btec sports science that Danny just spoke to you about is that this course is 100% internally assessed. So instead of having 4 units where you sit an external assessment, all of your assignments will be marked as an internal assessment, which may have a big impact on your decision of the course that's most suited to you. Out of the units that you choose or that are delivered to you, 2 of them are synoptic units. So that means there's crossover between a number of the units that you are taught and delivered. And then 1 of the units, the assessment is set by the exam board. So it has a similarity to the external assessments, but you do sit it as an internal assessment. Can we have the next slide, please? So just to give you an idea of some of the units that you will be covering, you can see that 2 key units within the qualification are the fitness skills development and the personal trainer skills development. And these are the key units that allow you to progress into employment. And then if you look at some of the other units, you can see that some of them are quite similar to the sports science programme, things like fitness testing and fitness training and the research project. But you've also got slightly different units where you look at things like careers in the industry and you look at things like marketing. So if you were setting yourself up as a personal trainer at the end of the course, then you've got some business knowledge as well. So as I mentioned earlier, the course is equivalent in size to 3 A-levels, same as the Btec in sports science, and it has 12 units, 8 of which are mandatory. So you can see those on the right-hand side of the screen. So the mandatory units will be taken over the 2 years, with the fitness skills development in year 1 and the personal trainer skills development in year 2. And you can see that they are the 2 units that are also synoptic, so they have crossover with other units in the qualification. But really, really importantly is that column on the right-hand side, which shows that all of the units are internally assessed. So you don't have the external assessments to sit in the January or the summer of year 1 and year 2. There is quite a lot of mandatory content, so 78% of the course is defined by the exam board, but then you can see there are quite a lot of optional units that can be taken as well, and we'll choose the optional units based on the kind of the profile of the students and what careers the students are looking to go into. I have the next slide, please. So as I mentioned a moment ago, you can see the logos down on the right hand side, that the course has been developed alongside the industry professionals and employers. So this course, as I mentioned, is for post-16 learners who want to specialise in a specific industry, so in the fitness industry or in personal training. Within the units that are delivered, you're developing both theoretical knowledge but technical skills that allow you to be employed within either of those 2 jobs. There is a significant level of employer involvement, and the qualifications are mapped to industry standards, so SIMSPA, REPS and UCAD. I'm going to go on to the next slide, please. So that is the level 3 qualification that we offer, that runs alongside the Btec Sports Science. Is something very different, whereas this qualification is a level 2 course. So a number of students that would pick level 2 are maybe because they haven't quite met the entry requirements of a level 3 course, or because they need to resit an English or Maths GCSE. So if you look at the name of the course, it says sport and physical activity, but as with most courses at post-16, that there isn't just time to play sport. There's also a huge amount of your timetable that's developing your skills, knowledge and understanding within the sector. So some students would finish this course and progress onto a level 3 qualification, whereas others might choose to begin an apprenticeship, whilst others might decide to progress into employment. And I've put some of the possible routes on the screen for you. So apprenticeships in something like a fitness instructor, maybe with a large organisation like Nuffield Health or David Lloyd, then maybe into employment. And you can notice with quite a lot of those, it's an assistant sports coach or an assistant fitness instructor whilst you gain your qualifications in the workplace. As I mentioned, quite a few students will take this qualification, a level 2 or a level 2 somewhere else in the college, and also resit a GCSE English or a GCSE in maths, or sometimes both. So we can enable your timetable to support that. Some students will also complete the level 2 qualification and be part of either the high performance or the elite sport programme, and again we can facilitate that. Down at the bottom, just as there's 7 to 9 mandatory units, which is dependent on the pathway that you choose. So there are 3 different pathways within this qualification, either an assistant sports coach, an assistant fitness instructor, or a leisure assistant, and that will dictate the units that will be taken, whether it's 7, 8 or 9. Can we go on to the next slide, please? So similar to the level 3 in sport, personal fitness and personal training, this qualification has also been developed in consultation with a number of employers and professional bodies. So Sports Coach UK, you may recognise, in the Youth Sports Trust. The English Federation of Disability Sport are also known as the Activity Alliance, and some of you might have done some sports leaders qualifications at school, things like the community sports leader or junior sports leader. And a key part of this course is employer engagement, similar to the previous level 3. So there will be opportunities to find out from employers how the skills and knowledge you will acquire are used in the workplace. And can you go on to the next slide, please? So in summary, the level 2 course, so quite different to the 2 level 3 offers and the A-level PE offer. It's only 1 year in duration. This is a new level 2 course. Previously, we have offered a Btec in sport, but this is a new offer. So this is a Cambridge Technical level 2 instead. I mentioned previously, normally you would pick this level 2 qualification because you're in full-time education, you're post 16, but you're not quite ready to study a level 3 qualification for a whole variety of reasons. And it can be completed alongside a GCSE in maths and English, or one of the 2 or both. It can also be completed alongside the elite sports programme or the high performance sport programme as well. Really key to these qualifications is that they're developed in consultation with employers and industry specialists. So the students are gaining the skills and knowledge that they need to be able to go into the workplace. We have had students in the past progress from level 2 courses onto level 3 and onto university, whereas other students will leave at level 2. Some go from level 2 to 3 and then into the workplace. As we mentioned previously, this can also progress into apprenticeships as well. And just going to see if anyone has got any questions. So we've got all our 4 different offers in sport and PE. So we've got A-level PE, which is a 2-year qualification, the Btec in sport and exercise science, the Btec sport, fitness and personal training, and the level 2 Cambridge Technical in sport and physical activity. So if you do have any questions on any of those courses, do feel free to pop your questions into the question and answer, and we'll answer those. Or on a previous slide, our email addresses were on there. You can always send any one of us an email and we'll get back to you. So I'm just going to check and see if there are any questions. So there's no questions coming up at the moment. Danny, Tom, Is there anything else that you want to add before I hand over to Roger?
No, I don't think so, Becky. I think you covered it all there. Thank you.
No, all good from me. I think that's all been covered.
Great. Okay, Roger, if you're ready to go, I'm going to hand over to you.